Welcome to Ink and Fitness. For those who are new to my channel, my name is Anthony. I am someone who went from skinny to fit, and these videos are purely educational. So this way, if you are also someone who is skinny, you can take these videos and utilize them in a way that's going to aid you in your own fitness journey. So that way you can go ahead and get some good results as long as you're being consistent with everything. If you are someone who is looking for one-to-one coaching, the link for that will be down below in the description. So feel free to check that out. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get straight into the video for today, which is we're going to be talking about how to build muscle as a skinny guy. So right off the bat, we need to make sure that we're eating in a caloric surplus. Um, we can't gain any weight or mass if we're eating in at least the mass that we desire, if we're eating in our maintenance calories, or of course if we're eating below our maintenance. And if we're eating below our maintenance, that means we're losing weight, we're losing fat. Now, eating slightly above your maintenance calories is called lean bulking, which is ideally the kind of bulk that you want to do, because there are two different kind of bulks: dirty bulking and lean bulking. Dirty bulking is essentially you're eating thousands of calories above your maintenance, causing you to gain excess fat that you don't need, while lean bulking is prioritizing muscle gain first. Obviously, you're going to gain some fat, but it's very minimal compared to, if you were to do a sort of dirty bulk. So by doing a lean bulk, the bulk will itself will last longer, yes, but it's going to be a lot more sustainable for you. And most importantly, final point here as far as eating goes, just make sure you're eating a gram of protein per pound of body weight that you weigh. So if you weigh 180, then you have to eat 180 grams worth of protein every single day. Maybe not every single day. You can take a break for a day, just to kind of reset yourself and just essentially just go easy on yourself with all this. But I'd say ideally 6 out of the 7 times out of the week, you should be hitting your macro goals and your calorie goals as well. Food choices. This is a big one because a lot of skinny guys who don't want to lose their leanness, their shreds, their cuts, as thin guys, we're pretty shredded essentially, right? You can see our abs, our veins are popping out, all these different kind of things. Now, when getting into a caloric surplus, like I mentioned already in the first slide, there's no way around gaining fat. By doing a lean bulk, yes, you will gain fat, but it's going to be very minimal compared to if you were to do a dirty bulk. So when it comes to food choices, to help make your lives easier when it comes to the eating side of things, because when you are eating in a surplus, you have to eat, a lot more than you're used to, of course. Um, you have to choose meats. At least I would recommend choosing meats that are fattier. You don't want to pick meats that are lean just because you don't want to gain fat, right? It's not possible to gain zero fat when you're on some sort of bulk. If you were on a lean bulk or dirty bulk, there's no getting away around gaining fat. Can you minimize it? Yes. So choose meats that are fattier, meats such as chicken thighs, salmon, steaks, red meats, red pork chops, those kind of foods, those kind of meats, just to help you out. They taste better too. Anything with fat really does taste better, so it'll help you enjoy your meals most importantly, and you can also make some really delicious recipes just using these fattier kind of foods. Plus, the obvious point, I don't think it's fair, or I don't think it'd be any harm not to mention this, but fattier meats, of course, they contain a little bit more calories opposed to those leaner meats. Last 2 points: make sure not to cut off any junk food. Use it when you need it. Just use it very strategically. Don't just eat or inhale a bunch of junk food every single day. Every now and then is okay, but not every single day. Because again, we want to minimize that fat gain. And we don't want to overdo it with the junk food because it's so easy to just start binge eating all these different kind of sweets, salty, savory foods like fried chicken, chocolate cake, these different kind of things. I love chocolate cake and fried chicken. Those are the first two that came into mind. That came to mind for me. But don't overdo it. Every now and then is fine. If you get sick of the meals that you're eating on a day-to-day basis, swap out one of those meals whenever you need it for a burger, fries, whatever it is that you feel like you need to, whatever you feel like is a good cheat meal for you. The one thing I will say, make sure your cheat meal does contain some form of protein. just so this way you are able to meet your protein goals. Because a lot of people who do cheat meals, they think about sweet, savories, or sweet stuff in general. So cake, donuts, ice cream, those kind of foods. Um, I guess try to eat cheat meals that are more savory. What are your favorite savory cheat meals? There's different options, so definitely take your pick, but at least make sure it has some sort of form of protein in it. 30 and above is fine. At the end of the day, just make sure you're meeting your protein goals in general. So if you're able to do that, and then you want to swap out a meal for ice cream, go ahead. Doesn't really matter because you've met the calorie goals, and you don't you're meeting your sorry, you meet your protein goals, but you're also meeting your calorie goals. Just don't make sure not to overdo it, because like a whole thing of Ben and Jerry's, the pintful ones, used to eat them all the time back then. Delicious, so freaking good. Ice cream Sammy, I think it was my favorite flavor. But one of those had like 1,200 or 1,500 or maybe just 1,000 calories per pint. So be careful, don't overdo it, and just make sure to track the cheat meals that you're eating onto MyFitnessPal, so that way you have a clear idea of how many calories you're at, and if you're way over, or if you're just in the right sweet spot. Calories are also great. I always recommend calories just because it does help us skinny guys get some more calories in. And also, you can make some really delicious recipes by using, protein powder and blending up some sort of bananas, peanut butter, oatmeal, milk all together, right? Because you can make some really tasty protein shakes. Find out recipes that work for you online. There's a bunch of recipes on Google. Just see what works best for you. Not everyone has the same taste buds, so maybe one recipe might taste better for another person, but it's not going to taste good. It's not going to taste as good for you. So find some recipes, try some different recipes out, find what works best for you. And if anything, if I had to recommend like a protein powder flavor, I recommend chocolate, just because, in my opinion, chocolate is like the universal flavor for everything. Don't do anything with vanilla. Vanilla is disgusting, in my opinion. At least, if you like vanilla, go for it. But I don't know. It just feels like I'm eating chalk whenever I drink one of those vanilla protein powders with different ingredients put in place. But chocolate is my go-to. I think chocolate is a lot of people's go-to. So if it is for you, look up some recipes with chocolate protein powder. How long should the bulk last for? Honestly, a good bulking phase will last anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks, so 3 to 4 months. The goal is to add on zero point 0.5 pounds to 1 pound of body weight per week. You can stretch it at 2 pounds per week, but anything more than 2 pounds is just really overdoing it. So I find that zero point 0.5 to 1 is kind of that sweet spot right there in terms of what you should be gaining per week. You can bulk for longer too if you feel like you're able to handle it. 4 months is kind of like the cap, I guess, before you might consider needing a break from the bulk, or just maybe considering ending your bulk. But if you can go for longer, for like 6 months or maybe 8 months or even a full year, if you have that kind of bandwidth mentally and physically, then go for it. There's nothing really stopping you from doing so. I will advise, though, I would advise taking a break in between somewhere there if you are going longer for 4 months, a break of one, I guess, like anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks, just so that way you can reset your body, reset your mind, reset yourself, um, you know, mentally and physically, pretty much. So that way you can go ahead and hit hard in the gym and hit hard in the eating as well. What do you do after the bulk? It really does depend on what your goals are. Like I said, like if you want to keep bulking, you can do so. It just depends on if you're able to take it mentally and physically. You can also take a short break, like a short 1 to 2 break off from the gym and off from eating in a surplus, so that way you can recharge your batteries and then decide what to do from there. You can also do a cutting phase. There really is no right or wrong answer unless you're competing. If you're competing, then you're probably gonna have to do, a cut afterwards. If you, depending on when your show is, or if you're just bulking for the whole year or a few months, whatever it is, right? I wouldn't really know about all this stuff because I don't compete for shows. I'm just someone who likes fitness and likes to educate myself on fitness content and different fitness material. But if you are someone competing for a show, then this is probably going to look very different for you. But if you're not someone competing for a show, you have options. There really is no right or wrong answer. So you can do whatever fits best for your own lifestyle, and kind of whatever fits best for the next season of your life. So whether that be taking a break from the gym for 1 to 2 weeks, or whether that be continuing your bulk, whether that be cutting, it's up to you. Sky's the limit. In terms of training, your training should definitely be high intensity, especially since we are eating in a surplus. Your training will never really change if you are cutting or bulking. I know some people say do high reps whenever you're cutting and do low reps when you're bulking. I think that's dumb, in my opinion. You don't. Why would you want to train or switch up your training styles when you are cutting or bulking? I understand when you're cutting, you're depleted of energy, right? You feel a little bit more fatigued. You get fatigued easier. You don't feel like training as hard, that sort of stuff. So I guess at that point it just depends on what your body needs. But I feel like in general, your training should not change whether you're bulking or you're cutting. You should still be aiming to get stronger inside of the gym, progressive overload, train with high intensity, so that way you are able to progress, in all your lifts, progress in your strength, and most importantly, transform your body as well through training hard. So in terms of training, don't just swing the weights around. Actually train with a purpose. Ooh, excuse me. If you're not exerting yourself, start getting used to it now. Actually exert yourself. So, for example, if you're used to doing 3 sets without really pushing yourself hard, take one of those sets till failure. Really push yourself on the last set. If you're someone who's used to just doing 1 set, add one more set onto what you're doing for all your exercises. So do 2 sets. So that's what I mean by exerting yourself, getting a little bit outside of your comfort zone, in terms of what you're used to, so that way you can start seeing more progress inside of the gym. I guarantee you'd see more progress with your lifting if you actually start exerting yourself inside of your training. And of course, you need to make sure you have the nutrition and rest and recovery side of things dialed in, but make sure that you actually push yourself in your training sessions. Actually make every rep count and leave the gym feeling satisfied because you felt like you left everything on the floor. So keep that in mind. You cannot achieve great results if you're just training in a mediocre way. That's just not possible at all. I mean, think of any great athlete or great bodybuilder out there, or just anyone who's done anything great in general. They've busted their ass off. They worked hard for it. So imagine where they'd be if they just did the things that they were successful at in a mediocre way. They wouldn't be half as successful as they are today. So the way I recommend training is doing 2 sets to failure, 6 to 8 reps, and progressive overload. And for those who don't know what progressive overload is, basically it's when you complete last week's weight successfully for the given rep and set scheme with perfect form, so that way you can progress this week on whatever given exercise with a new weight. Ideally, you want to increase the weight gradually, anywhere between 2.5 to 5 pounds, nothing more, because you want to make sure you still maintain perfect form, and that you're not ego lifting or just swinging the weights around, right? So that's kind of typically the way I set up all my exercises, kind of that same rep and set scheme, and that's just how I push myself essentially. In terms of exercise selection, it doesn't really matter. In my opinion, as long as you have good form of an exercise, then you should be able to feel it in the given muscle group that you're trying to isolate and you're trying to hit. Obviously, if you can't feel it, then try lowering the weight. Really focus on your form. I usually recommend a 3 to 4 second count on the eccentric, so the negative part of the movement. Explode on the way up, and then when you are on the way down of the movement, so when you're at the deep stretch portion. So for example, if you were doing a bicep curl and you curl down, that deep stretch portion of the movement, hold it for 1 to 2 seconds, and then explode on the way up. So that's kind of 1 rep right there. So that's the way I usually like to count, or yeah, that's just usually how I like to set up my reps, or how I like to do each of my reps. I think I wanted to say one more point when it comes to this. Yes, rest times. In terms of rest times, I know I didn't put this on here. In terms of isolation exercises, so bicep curls, quad extensions, lateral raises, stuff like that, right? Anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes. Ideally, 3 minutes is good if you are training with true intensity. So this way you can give your body more than enough time that it needs to recharge its battery, so that way it can hit the next set just as hard as the first set. For compound lifts, so bench press, squats, deadlifts, leg press. Compound lifts are basically the body. Basically, when you utilize more than one muscle group to perform the given exercise. While isolation exercises are just you're utilizing one muscle group for the given exercise. But in terms of compound lifts, compound exercises, 5 minutes is pretty good. If you are able to feel fully rested in 4 minutes, that's fine. I just find with compound lifts, you just really get winded a little bit. Not easy, but you get winded when you do train hard. So you're going to need a little bit extra time to catch your breath and really just overall catch yourself, right? So use all the time that you need to rest up. Again, everyone's body is different. So if you respond better to resting for 4 minutes on compound lifts, then go for it. If you respond better resting for 6 minutes, then go for it. It just depends on what you're most comfortable with, what your body best responds to. That covers it for the video for today, though, guys. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If there is a particular video that you all want to see, make sure to leave it down below in the comments so that way I can go ahead and make it. Much love to you all, though, and one more time, I do have the link for one-to-one coaching is down below in the description, so feel free to check that out. Till the next one, though, guys, take care. Peace.